Hello everyone, we're back for episode 2 of our summer series, State of the Golf Course. I'm joined by two very special guests, Sarah Bidney, our Director of Instruction, and Jim Cedrel, our golf course superintendent. We are recording this on Tuesday, July 9th at about 9:30 in the morning. Beautiful morning here over at the driving range. We're through the 4th of July, believe it or not, and now we're what we call the dog days of summer. So how are you both doing this morning?
I'm good. It's been mild. I'm enjoying these 60-degree mornings instead of 75, 80 degrees. So I've been feeling fantastic in the mornings.
Great.
Yeah,
Sarah?
doing great. We're into our second month of all the programming and just kicked off the July junior camp this morning and had a great first session and looking forward to the rest throughout the day.
Good. Well, we have two topics we want to talk about today. One is Sarah's member program, which she just briefly touched on, and the second is our new short game practice area over here on the east side of the driving range that was just recently approved at the June board meeting. So we're going to kind of dive into that. Jim's going to talk about what it's going to look like, how we're going to get there. Sarah's going to kind of chime in on what that means for her programming going forward. So Sarah, why don't I turn it over to you? A lot of people are familiar with you, Sarah. You've been here. This is your second year. We're thrilled to have you on staff, but kind of take us through your programming. What exactly, for someone that may not be familiar with Sarah Bidney's Director of Instruction, her programming, take us through what your day looks like. I know your days are very long this time of year. They start early, they end late. So just kind of take us through and kind of give us an overview of your programming and if someone's not familiar with it.
Sure. So with all the programming that I offer, it's for ages 4 up through adults. The junior program's 4 through graduating senior. First program's Future 36ers, which are for 4 to 6 year olds. Then we have our June and July camp for the 5 and up. And then we have Operation 36, which is for basically 7 through about 12. And then the final program, when they're in the 13-ish range, is called the Leading Edge, and that's the most advanced program. It's high school prep, and for those who are already in high school, just continuing development and tournament play and all that. So kind of a suite of programming for the juniors. The adults, I have beginner programs, which primarily would be Operation 36. Not always beginner, though. It's anybody wanting to improve short games. So I've definitely had some members who are experienced, but come into that just to really sharpen their 100 yards and in, which is very much the scoring zone. And then I have an adult performance coaching group, which is a 3-month program that's going to be wrapping up here in the next week or two. And that we started back in April, and it's for people who are trying to shoot 90 or lower. Kind of get into that bogey golf or better, which I think is a lot of our members and a lot of our golfers.
Up in on that one.
Yeah, so it's a wide variety, but I really love it. It's, my day is never boring. I work with all ages, all abilities, and keeps me busy and hopefully keeps people happy.
So you just mentioned to kick off the podcast, you've got some programming that just started. What can members look ahead to this fall?
Sure. So this fall will be primarily Operation 36 programming, and that's going to be on, for kids, it's going to be on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, a 4:30 to 6 class, and they just choose between one of those days. And then adults will have an Op 36 on Tuesday nights, and then, of course, private lessons, and if people want to make their own small groups, that'll be great.
She might be the hardest working employee we have out here.
I think she is.
She'd be out here, I can't believe how early she's here setting up, and then she's here long after I'm gone, and shoot, I'm in bed probably a lot of the time by the time you're done leaving.
Yeah, maybe. Today I was here probably by 7:30. I'll be here till 7:30 at night, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are the busiest. Kind of 12-hour days usually, but I do have an amazing intern in Chris. I think a lot of people have been able to meet Chris.
Yeah, good guy.
And he's definitely helping out quite a bit, and then of course the other pros are helping with some of the programming as well. So it's been a nice summer, and I always say 'tis the season. If I wasn't busy, I'd be worried. So it's a good thing, and happy to be here.
Yeah, I see. I'll drive back to the range, checking on things back here at Carmel Hyperion, and all the kids on the 8-passenger cart. You just shuttle them back and forth, and here comes another group. They're all smiling, they're all hitting balls, so that's what it's all about.
Yep.
So
Yep,
anyway,
for sure.
So we're going to move to this new short game area, which I mentioned was approved at the board meeting last month. We briefly touched on this on episode 1 back in early June, on where we were at with the committee, our architect Paul Miller. So that's all been approved. The plan has been approved. It was in the July newsletter. We're real excited about it. Jim, what are next steps? Because we're ready to start moving dirt.
Yeah.
Move full steam ahead. So take us through what the members can expect to see here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we we worked with Sarah and Adam, and as well as the committee, to identify what they would like to see out of that short game area, to add a lot more variety to our practice options, uneven lies and that sort of stuff. And when we really started initially exploring this, we thought maybe we would be on the north side with a practice green, but once we started seeing the property stakes go up, the south end, south of the far practice tee, started looking pretty alluring just because of the elevation change. And so that's kind of what we started to focus on with our architect Paul Miller and with the committee. And we went back and forth with a few different options or designs, so to speak, and we've arrived at what I think is going to be something way better than we've ever had before. The green's going to be between 5,500 and 6,000 square feet, so it'll be bigger than the upper practice green and smaller than the lower practice green. For context, those are 7,000 and 4,000, so it's going to be a good sized green. We're going to have 2 practice bunkers go in over here. One of those practice bunkers will be kind of a flatter bunker, dual purpose, to where you can practice into the green, maybe a shallow bunker shot, and then turn and hit balls out into the range, so to practice your fairway bunker shot. The shape of this practice tee, now it's kind of a rectangle running north and south. It'll be more of a square shape. We'll flatten it out and move it to the east and west a little bit. So we'll have similar square footage of tee space. And then the green will have quite a bit more movement, more break, undulation than the little green that we've built near the road crossing. We'll have another bunker to the south of that green, and that'll be more of a deeper pot bunker to simulate, more of your deeper bunker shots. We do plan on putting the same sand in. We'll have the same grass on the green. We have plans for some mounding to add a little bit of screening protection from the range, as well as some movement like turf hollow type areas. And then we're going to put in as much bent grass as we can around this green. Wherever it's feasible, I'd like to have bent grass to give everybody chances to play just all sorts of weird lies that you encounter when you're actually playing golf, that you can't simulate those on a nice flat practice tee. So we aim to be dropping seed. My goal would be mid-August by September 1. That's ideal time to drop seed. You get those cool crisp fall evenings, nice soil temperatures, just conditions really conducive for establishing turf. We hope to see some dirt being moved, fill dirt being hauled from Carmel Hyperion and deposited on our property really any day now. The weather hasn't exactly been conducive for bulldozers and scrapers. I think we're at 20 inches of rain now since May 1st, including 3 inches already here through the first week of July. So a little bit hindered with the earth moving stuff, but we're looking forward to working with Scott and Carmel Hyperion and Elder Corporation to start building up the elevation and get kind of the rough grade done. And then our staff, as well as an outside contractor who helps us out a lot, will do a lot of the finish work, putting in the drainage and building the bunkers, seeding the greens, sodding where needed. The cart path will be rerouted. We'll probably get some help with that. We'll be doing some clearing of the trees to allow some room to bring in the topsoil to get the grading right. So you'll start seeing some of that happen this week yet. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be so much nicer than what we had before. So much more realistic, bigger, more amenities. So looking forward to that.
Okay, Jim, well, that's all great to hear. I know the members are really excited. You guys are excited. Sarah's excited. I'm excited. Adam, the whole staff. So why don't you touch on the new putting green on the west side of the range that's been seeded?
Yeah, it's coming in nicely. It's been a challenge with the wet spring that we've had. Boy, we had a really great germination and establishment early. Would have been late May, early June, and we had just a torrential downpour, and that set us back because we had a lot of movement of that sand and seed. And so we came in and we fixed that up And since then, we've had another couple of occurrences, not nearly as severe, where we've had a little bit of washing. So those areas will be slow to come in. But boy, the grass on probably 90 to 95% of that surface area has already started to come in. We're mowing it already. We're fertilizing it to push its establishment. The sod has rooted down nicely. So really excited for that. Hopefully, and maybe a little bit optimistic, but hopefully we'll be able to use that yet this fall. Probably be later fall because, summertime, the high heat of July and August is not the ideal time to establish turf, but it's not saying that it can't be done. And if the weather stays mild and cool and wet, we may be on it sooner than we think. So we'll just we'll keep pushing it as hard as we can, and hopefully the weather cooperates with us. Really excited to see that come together.
Sarah, so with all the construction we've had with Carmel Hyperion, your space has been limited for teaching. Why don't you touch on what this new short game area will do specifically for Op 36 for everyone that's interested in improving their short game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great because it'll be one centralized location for everything. We can get everybody to the back, and then we can stay here for the whole session, which will be fantastic. So we can do the full swing. We can do all the short game. We'll have our bunkers back, which is great. I think that'll be huge. And then with the sort of undulation that you talked about, having some better uneven lie area, that'll be nice. And I think because our facility is amazing, but like you said, especially with the project that you did on the west end, that it's very nice and flat now, which is great. But so
that'll be good for working on your stroke.
Yes.
You're probably going to get more feedback, on some of your funny lies and slopes to the green with this area over here.
Absolutely, because as everybody who's played, there's a lot of character, a lot of slope, a lot of just interesting lies that we can get out here, even off of a good tee shot, right? So it's going to be great. And I think with junior golf especially, we can shuttle all the kids back and really have our stations and our rotations in a very centralized area, and I think that'll be fantastic.
Good. Do you think you can expand your programming in any way?
Well, yeah, I certainly hope so. I know we started the sips and swings in the spring,
that was a hit.
And there's certainly more topics. I mean, those were the basics. We did putting, chipping, irons, driving, but we can get into having an uneven lie clinic, or having a bunker clinic, or hitting out of the rough clinic, or all that kind of stuff. We can get more detailed for sure. Good. So I'm excited.
I'd like to. Just say thanks, because that's tough for you when you don't have all these different areas that you'd like to have to accommodate all these juniors in these groups. And so the patience that you've had to display and move people around, that's tough. But you definitely seem to understand the bigger picture and the long-term game that we're playing here with Carmel Hyperion and the development of these areas. So thanks for your patience. We're going to get it done for you, I promise.
No,
it's just requires a little patience when you're doing
good.
stuff this big. So.
It's been going well. We're very fortunate to have the 8-passenger. That really makes it happen with all the kids and stuff. But no, and it's great that we have that lower area. That's huge. Used it a ton last year for sure, and so to have that still available is been great. So.
Well, and that's another area too, the lower practice area that's on the Greens and Grounds and committee's agenda to potentially look at expanding. More bent grass area, maybe a potential greenside bunker. So that's all in the works for potentially next year. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Jim, we'll turn it back over to you, kind of touch on overall golf course conditions. Everybody that I talk to, everybody says that the golf course is in great shape, which it is. So that's a big credit to you and your team and all the hard work you guys put in. Maybe touch on green speed. I know that's a topic that always comes up. Maybe around a table in the sports bar or the committee.
No, I know very well that it's talked about a lot. Yeah, no, I've been pretty happy with some of the adjustments that we've made agronomically, practices, whatnot, with how we came out of spring. We were able to hit our numbers, our target green speed a lot earlier. Maybe by 2 to 3 weeks than historically. Obviously, we're going to learn from those adjustments and parlay those into the future. All the rain has been a bit of a challenge. We've been lucky to have nice drying periods in between those heavy rains. But yeah, when you get 20 inches of rain and we're not even halfway through the summer, eventually that's going to catch up to us. It's hard to believe we were in a drought last year. Our groundwater has got to be rising and rising and rising. Eventually, I anticipate, especially as Saylorville Lake rises, we'll start to see some of that groundwater maybe start seeping. But hopefully not. I'd rather see us dry down at this point in the summer. But yeah, that definitely impacts green speed. They're definitely softer more often when we get these heavy rain events. Mowers have been a little bit scalpy. We're getting a lot of growth, mineralization, and nutrients with all that added moisture. So we won't dive too deep into all that stuff, but it
talk a lot about that
it
stuff,
definitely
which is
has
good.
an impact. Usually in mid-July we got to make a few adjustments. We've been doing a little bit of needle tining and that sort of stuff to just try to keep the greens healthy, but also balance the desire for a fast, firm surface. So
one
it's part of
kinda
it.
turfy question I have for you, and I know you're a big turf guy.
Oh boy.
So
Let's hear it.
growth regulators. What exactly does a growth regulator do? What do you put that on? Is it tees, greens, fairways, rough? What I know we talked a little bit about yesterday with the Greens and Grounds Committee chairs, but tell our listeners what do growth regulators do?
So plants are just like us. They've got chemical processes within them, just like we do. A plant growth regulator, there's different types, and they manipulate those plants in different ways. They simulate naturally occurring hormones within the plant. We use them on our greens, tees, and fairways. If you think about it, we're in the business of having nice, healthy grass that looks, appealing, has a good color, and recovers well. But I'm not in the business of mowing the grass any more than I have to.
Sure.
Because that takes fuel, it takes labor, it's wear and tear on the machines, all of those things. So we'll use a plant growth regulator. There's a couple different types. One will limit cell elongation. Another type will limit cell division. So it will slow the rate at which a plant produces new cells, or it will decrease the amount that leaf blade elongates from day to day. So the idea is you harvest less clippings. Now if you're a farmer, like, you want as much yield typically as possible. I want as little yield out of those plants as possible. So we're manipulating those plants kind of at a genetic chemical level with synthetic hormones to decrease the amount of growth. When you talk about greens and green speed, there's a direct correlation. It's 1-to-1, scientifically proven. The more grass you're harvesting on a daily basis, the slower your greens are going to be. So we really have to play a balancing act with the nitrogen fertilizer and those plant growth regulators. You got to have enough of one to make sure that we've got recovery from ball marks and foot traffic. You don't want to have too much that it slows down because we're growing too much. That's where we use those regulators. It's a balancing act. You got to be very careful, know what you're doing, and we're talking about minute ounces per acre. So it doesn't take much. So
Well, you often
that's
see
probably
that.
the too long answer to
No,
your
that's a good answer.
question.
That's the answer I was looking for. A lot of members that maybe play in the early morning, you might see the John Deere sprayer out there, and
Yep.
that's one of the applicants that they're putting down along with several others to maintain the golf course at a high level. So we're fortunate to have Jim on staff as well as Sarah, and thank you both for joining me. We'll be back with episode 3 of our summer series, State of the Golf Course, here middle of August, where we'll provide an update on the new short game area as well as an overall condition of the course as well. So thank you, everyone.
Questions that you want answered, let us know.
Yeah. If there's,
Okay.
give me your. We just had a turf question, but if you got another turf quiz, bring them. That'd be fun. Hopefully we'll have some.
This is meant to educate you guys, so if there's anything that you want us to
We'll call it a mailbag.
there you go.
Send us your questions to Jim and I on any sort of procedures on the golf course, growth regulators,
Yeah, all the-
nematodes. We
the
talked about that last year.
the stuff you're curious about.
Science.
Science, lots of science. So,
Science, a little bit of art thrown in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, thank you, everyone. We'll be back in August.